I would like to welcome to the seminar of Domus Academy about the portfolio and personal branding tools during the study Intelli days. In a few minutes, we are going to start. And Paula will present us today, very important presentation. And at the end, you'll have time for your questions. You may write in the chat box or just turn on your microphone and ask directly. So I'll be here to support you. And Paula, you may start whenever you want.
Great. Thank you very much. So thank you, first of all, for joining this webinar dedicated to personal branding tools. So I will help you kind of understand how to put together in a better way your CV, your portfolio, and your motivational letter for applications in general, and hopefully application to Domus Academy. So I hope to meet you in the next few years here in Milan. But let's start. So the chat is open. So again, feel free to ask or unmute yourself. I'm here for that. So let's start from something very particular, which is not particular, but, it should motivate you as well, is the fact that everyone is legendary at something, at least. It is just a little bit maybe difficult to understand how to communicate and how to go through the application processes and showing what the best part of yourself is. We all know that everyone is different. Everyone has different aspirations, different desires. Everyone has its own talent, again. So you actually need to express it, and you express your skills, your uniqueness. So I would go through a couple of tips and communication tips on how to use this kind of tips to implement it in your applications as well. I see there is one mic which is open. So I kindly ask you, if possible, to mute if you don't have questions, obviously. But yeah, thank you. Great. So first of all, before starting, it is very important that you actually create a personal map, which is necessary and it's needed to understand who we are, because we all have different backgrounds as well. So some also have work experience apart from the educational background. So first of all, make a list of what you do well and ask yourself, from these skills, what I can do, what I can improve as well. So be aware of what you know how to use and what you know how to do as well. And ask yourself as well, what can I improve? What can be done better? And how can I be different from the other applicants to a specific master, to a specific job offer? Another important differentiation is to differentiate between what your technical skills are, so the softwares do you know how to use, and what the soft skills like can be team building, can be diplomacy, it can be organizational skills. Other elements that are actually important for starting in personal branding is the working environment as well you're going into. So another map that you can mentally feel or take a piece of paper, that's always recommended, is to understand which designers are you inspired from. What are the ones that you would love one day to work with? Domus Academy is a big place for networking. So when we do invite professionals, they are professionals in the field. So they are designers, they are fashion designers, architects. So what we do is kind of create links, and with your map, you need to create links as well. Then another important thing to ask yourself is, what kind of companies or kind of studios would you like to work with, apart from the professionalism itself? This can be useful as well, because we understand yourself and your identity as a designer. When it comes to the internship, because part of the master in Domus Academy is doing the internship in the one-year program, we kind of understand from you what kind of inspirations you have, what kind of identity as a designer you have, and then we put you in the right environment for work and for doing the internship during the master. So we very much follow what you actually indicate to us. And then the last map need to fill in is 5 of your best skills, which are always obviously useful when presenting a portfolio and a CV. Great. So another big thing is that today creativity is super important, and creativity is a talent in a certain way that is born from practice, from experience. We as well, during the course and during the master, during the workshop, we very much encourage creativity. Because we ask you to go also beyond what you know how to use and create something that can be useful for the consumers, for the studio, for the brand we're working with. So we ask you to put as much creativity you can into the project. And then the other big skills needed is storytelling. It's fundamental nowadays. Who sees your portfolio or your CV needs to be engaged. You kind of create a relationship, a digital one, obviously, where you create your own word and you communicate your word. What you do, obviously, in the portfolio, it's not put all the projects you have. You select the work you want to put into, the work that best represents you, that it's better for showing your skills as well. And what you do is creating as well a good narrative of your projects. So a fil rouge that kind of connects everything and makes us understand who you are as well. All the students are different, as we said. So you kind of do and create your own word making. You create your word. So you need to ask yourself, which is my word? Are you more a type of Wizard of Oz? Are you more Simpson? Which kind of visual reference as well you want to convey and are linked to your projects as well? So when you do create a layout for your CV, for your motivation letter, and for your portfolio, we ask you to be consistent with your visual reference. Many students, obviously, for the best kind of way of approaching and creating a portfolio, they do prefer a very sleek kind of design. Keep that in all the things you present, I mean, CV and motivation letter. So feel free to, actually, you're very much encouraged to keep this sleek layout. So stick with one and go with it. Rules, little rules, I mean, as always, less is more. So do not overput. We don't need to see too much into your portfolio. We don't ask for 10 projects. We ask for 5, maximum 6, but very good, very detailed. When you try to express yourself and you express your personality, we're very much into seeing you do different things than your own background. For example, we have students applying to the Master in Interior Design that also have products. They also, have projects in product design or architecture, and that's very recommended to put into. But don't forget to express who you are as a designer as well. So the main type of project we will need to see are the project related to the master you're trying to apply to. The rest has to be can be part of the portfolio, but in a different way. My phone was ringing. Then other rules that we have: clarity, synthesis, simplicity, and personality. Again, so it's very clear. You need to be clear on who you are and what you're trying to achieve and where you're trying to go. So passing on to the practical part. What is a portfolio? Is it an archive of our projects, or is it a collection or a selection of projects? First of all, the portfolio is a communication tool. So before starting to create it, you need to define your communication goal as for everyone. And you need to ask yourself, what is then my communication goal? Am I trying to get into an academy? Am I trying to find a job? Which is the person I'm trying to deliver my portfolio? So depending on who you are referring to, it will be very important to adapt your portfolio to the person you're trying to speak. And then the second question comes with which projects. I mentioned already something prior, but the right number of projects doesn't really exist. We can have an indication, and for sure it's not a lot. So 5 to 6, as I was mentioning prior, maximum 7 if they are very small projects. They should definitely be your strongest works. And I would put your projects from newest to latest, from newest to oldest, sorry, so that we can also see your identity as a designer growing and your skills growing as well. Obviously, we do prefer the recent works. So if you have to choose, the most recent one are always the best ones, because they're usually the final part of a path you have taken in your university, for examples. Then other thing you want to see is project that you actually love. So you need to be attached to this project. You need to feel like they're your babies in a sense. And then obviously the project that represent where you want to go in terms of future aims. So that's where the reference comes when I made an example prior. If you're trying to apply to a master in product design, but you're an interior designer, the majority of the projects, or anyway, the strongest projects needs to be in product design, because you're trying to enter in product design. This doesn't mean that if you have a portfolio of interior design, you cannot enter in product. No, it's very common for us to see students coming from very different backgrounds, but still entering the program, because the softwares you know how to use are similar, obviously, when it comes to design, for example. So can be adapted to a different field. We just ask you to put a little bit more effort and create a project that can be very specific to what you're trying to apply for. How to do that? It's very important that you actually guide people with an index of contents, with the title, with the field. So you need to specify if that's packaging design, if that's graphic design, if that's interior design. So a very specific field. And then you need to specify if there was a specific company involved, or you have done it in a specific universities, like it was most probably do. I see that in the chat there are 2 messages, but I cannot read the chat. So I don't know if Ugur is still there to help me. If not, I will come back.
Of course, no, of course I'm here.
Great.
Just a minute. If we put 5 projects in our portfolio, maximum how many pages it should be?
Usually we do recommend a maximum of 40-45 pages. 40-45, it's already a big number. But obviously if you put 5 to 6 that are very detailed project, that's fine. We will go through anyway to all of the portfolio, but the shorter and the more intensity is the best, is the portfolio as well.
Okay, another one. Do you have a chance to show a sample portfolio?
I will have during the presentation a couple of photos, okay? So I will show you past projects of students and portfolios. So I will go through them, no worries, I will do that. Great, then structure. The structure of the portfolio is super important, apart from the index, obviously. What you do, obviously, is the cover page, the first thing to do, which is the presentation of your persona as a designer. So this is super important. Then we will ask you for a short bio. It has to be professional, but different from the CV, because the CV, it's more technical. The portfolio, it's more expressive, obviously. The bio, it's more personal, should be some statement, not too many, but just a few or maybe a reference quote that you have in life or in design, mainly design, fashion. I'm applying to different fields, okay? Just take the general info. Then the index, as we talked about index prior. And then for each project, we will ask for the cover page with the title, with the short brief, with the presentation of your project, the aim, and the role in the project. So you need to answer to the 5W, which are who, when, what, why, and where. These are super important for us to understand where you're trying to go and what was asked and what are you trying to solve as well in the project. And then we will ask you 3, 4, 5, 6 maximum pages of project details with the technical drawings, if applicable to the design field, with the renderings, with the pattern making part if it is fashion design, with the graphic advertisement if it is a graphic design portfolio. So really depending on what's your area of expertise. And last part of the portfolio should include contacts and links. So if you have a Behance, if you have LinkedIn, if you have a YouTube, professional YouTube, obviously, please feel free to put them down. And also many students ask me, what if can I put into awards, competition, publications? Absolutely, yes. Super important. It shows us that you also have been doing things outside of your simple university work. You're going beyond it. Important, obviously, is when you do anything in the portfolio is showing all the design process. We don't care only for the final result. If you have to show a logo, for example, I don't want to see only the best one. I only want to see the one before, the why it was redesigned. I want to see the sketches. I want to, if you're doing interior design, interior space, you need to show previous trials of the one that maybe did not make it because there was some kind of problem that didn't really reach and appeal to the final aim of the project. So we want to see all of it. Design is a trial and error kind of type of work. So we want to see the errors you've been making and how you've been trying to solve it. Obviously, if this means integrating other 10 pages, please don't. But, just a few, half of a page to show us what you were thinking of prior and now it became the final one. In the field of business, for example, if you want to create a new strategy or you want to help a brand launch this new product, or if you want to help a startup launching, you need to show the procedures that are taken into consideration step by step when launching the new product or the new startup. Very important tips. First of all, your role needs to be clear, especially if that was a group project. If the renderings you're showing are not yours because you were in charge of something different, put the name of your colleagues, obviously. Were you more in charge of the concept, of the research, of the rendering, of the prototype? Just tell us. That's important to see, because if you don't do that, we think that everything you have done is yours. And can be a little bit risky, obviously, when trying to be entering in a master where you actually will need to do everything. We do have candidacies, for example, of people that are expert in the fields and they put renderings that are done from an external agency. That's not super, it's fine, but just put into that it was actually done from an external partner or colleagues or classmate from the university. So that's really important. And then the details. So tell us if you have worked with for an agency, for a company, or if it was a university project. Put the name on it and the year it was realized as well. A couple of more tips. One is the tone of voice and the aesthetic of the portfolio. It needs to be the same for the all portfolio, and keep in mind and be careful a little bit of your online presence. Do not put your personal Facebook page. Put us your LinkedIn, your BNs if you have a portfolio. So these are mainly recommended. And then obviously, as I was mentioning prior, the projects and competition you have participated in, these are more we're more into that. So coming to examples, practical example, this is an example of a cover page of one of our former students of interior design. As you can see, the cover is very clean, is well visible. You can read everything. It shows the years of the portfolio presented, and that's very important. So we know which timeline you did it, and the field, obviously. This is also very nice in terms of how it was actually designed, super, super innovative and cute to see. An example regarding the About Me here. This is an example of one of our former visual brand design student. So she has the picture, there are some elements recurring. So we know that she knows how to use that specific technical skills because she put it in milk bottles. And that's very cute to see as well. So we know these students can use, is an illustrator, that is a broad designer, and it's written in its statement. And then you have an idea of the skills, obviously, in the educational background, which is very important. We also have a very clear personality shown here by the students in itself, by the font, the picture, the milk bottles. That's very recognizable. And she kept it also in terms of aesthetic for her portfolio as well. So very yellow based and everything that could be transferred as well in the other documents that we have. Important is always the work experience as well. Even if you did a small internship, put it in because it tells us what you were doing in which field, and now it can then be important for your career as well. This is an example of an index. This, again, it's a student of business. It was actually as well a brand designer, experience designer. So it was a very diverse type of candidates. So here we have an example. These are 4 projects. So in this case, he only had 4 projects in a portfolio, and she put a little preview with the photo. Then she was very specific to the company she was working with, the field. These were all the projects that she actually did in Domus Academy, so with the companies that you see here. And then obviously we have the specification on the field and on the pages. So this is obviously a mini portfolio that was creating during their path here in Domus Academy. Here, for example, we have a cover page for one of the projects. So we have the photo of the final project that was very nice to see. Then we have the title, we have the company, we have the collaboration, because again, this was a workshop between Domus Academy and Kickstarter the students did here in campus. We have the year, we had the short brief, the challenges, and he expressed, if you noticed, very well the role in the project. So what he was in charge of during the project. Going back to another cover page that we actually have. So as you can see, the background graphic, it's referring to the picture that was in the previous portfolio cover page, the one of 2 slides ago. But you see the title, you see the brief with some words highlighted, which makes us understand very clearly what is going to focus on. He expressed very well where it was done. So in this case, Domus Academy, the year and the workshop that he was doing. Plus, he added the thing of the hashtags, which are recaps, words to put into. So that's great. Okay, this is an example of the process into a project. So in this case, it was kind of a research kind of project. In this case, we have the research, we have the problem setting part, we have the idea and the strategy. So you start from researching something you want to solve. You set the problem. So you set the problem that this specific company has, and then you strategize and you get ideas in order to solve it. This shows your critical thinking, which is something that we really want to see. This is the digital strategy. So this is the final output with the digital strategy that the students come up with. So it's a very clear final page for what happened. Obviously, you have only seen the cover page, the concept part, the research very much in small, then you've seen the last part, but there was so much more in this. What I'm showing here, it's just the digital strategy that they come up with at the end. Then another important part of presenting your application for everything is the CV. This CV, it's also a very important communication tool. It's more technical, as I was saying prior, and should include your contact information, so name, surname, your address, your phone, and your email. It should include your educational background, so which school, which university you have attended, which degrees you have taken, if there were any grants during your path, and the academic awards that you got, the honors you've received during your educational path. But then also very important is to put into your work experience. So if it is not a lot, if you actually have a lot of work experience, it's better to put only the most relevant one. Do not write to us that you were a waiter in McDonald's when you were doing universities. Focus more on what's related to what you're trying to apply to, which makes more sense for us. And then obviously the part of the skills. We have seen a CV prior. So technical skills with the level, so basic, medium, or advanced, depending on the area of expertise. Plus, always very important, and students do always forget this, are the soft skills. So are you able to work in teams? Are you a diplomat? Are you trying to, how do you solve conflicts as well when working in groups? So everything that could be interesting, obviously, for an environment where the group-based approach is very important, like it is in Domus Academy anyway. Then another important statement is that creative is not chaotic. So your CV needs to be readable. You need to absolutely check and double check for mistakes, grammatic mistakes. Ask your friends also to look if there is some misspelling from some mistakes, because it's very important to present yourself in the best way possible. Here we have some examples. So we have the main elements in all of them. So the picture, the name of the student, that just for privacy reason I just covered, the address, the number, the language, not the languages, I mean the LinkedIn, and in some case, in the last case especially, and the BNs as well. Then all of them kind of have a statement. So in the first one, you see the sentence with ciao, we saw prior as well. The second one, it's a little bit long, to be honest, but he is a storyteller as a designer, he's a storyteller. So obviously we are expecting from him to tell us a story, which he actually does in his own statement. And then also the last one, it's perfect, it's not too long, just tells us more or less what you're able to do and who you are as a designer. In all of them, there is the work experience, there is the education part. If you notice, in the third one, it is not present, the educational background. That's a problem. It has to be there. I understand that in this case, for him, the work experience was more important, but no, it has to be put also the educational knowledge and the educational experience you got. Work experience needs to be put from latest to oldest as well, so we have an idea of everything that you have done in the past as well. All of them have an idea, give us an idea of the technical skills. Then we have links, the languages spoken, and that's fine. In the second part, for example, of these CVs, the first one is students of fashion design. She was very good, a lot of technical elements that shows that she has a lot of work experience, which is very well aligned. The second one was an applicant for luxury brand management master. There are too many lines, too many dots, too many circles, too many bullet points. So that's a little bit confusing, and it brings your eyes somewhere else. And please, not italic font. We are not really a fan of italic font when it comes to CVs. And the third one is actually a student applying for interior design. It is very clear, very neat, which is less is more, great. But there are not a lot of information on the educational experience. So we know that he has done another school prior, that he has done a master in Domus Academy, but we have no clear indication. We would have loved a little bit more detail on what he was actually doing. Last, very important part is the motivational letter. The motivational letter is another very strong communication tool. And if you want to apply to any school, but in particular to Domus Academy, you need to ask yourself why. For everything, I think it's important to ask yourself why. For the motivational letter, we ask for 1 page. I would say no more than that, with an introduction. So you tell us your story on your educational background. You tell us your work experience. And you need to explain why you think you are a perfect fit for that specific master and why you would be a perfect student for Domus Academy. Since we have very particular programs, it's important that you know where you're going to fit as well. We want to see also the things that we have in common as a school and as you as a designer. When it comes to tips, what we do is we ask students to kind of go for a 3-paragraph kind of structure. So the introduction, where you talk about yourself, where you want to go and what you want to do in the future. Then the body, where you kind of tell us what you have done educationally wise, what you have done work wise in the part. Then we do ask for the conclusion. So we ask you to finalize why you are an interesting candidate for the program. Another big tip is for you to inform yourself on who's the program leader of the master and putting the direct name and surname to the person you are actually introducing yourself to. Here's an example, a very standard example of a motivational letter. So you see the contact details, you see the intro with your personal information. What are you applying to? Why you're doing that? The body, so the story, here is where storytelling needs to come out. You show your achievements as well. Be as factual as possible, obviously. And then the conclusion. So you mentioned what you want to do in the future, and you thank the reader for reading your motivational letter, and you close it. 1 page, it's fine, it's great. So just to recap, we want you to tailor to a specific program, a specific position you are applying to, and then we ask you to address it to a specific person after doing your research on the program, the research on the program leader as well. And this is a suggestion for life in general, for whatever job you're trying to apply, whatever academy you're trying to apply. Try to study what's their DNA, what they have at heart. when it comes to learning or the job positions, obviously, what are the main values they have. And if you respond to that values, obviously, because you need to feel comfortable as well in the place you're going towards. So that's very important. So kind of demonstrate that you share the values, because, for example, Domus Academy is a very multidisciplinary, multicultural, very practical and networking based kind of moment and kind of path. So we ask you to say, yes, I'm very interested in that. Also for you to feel well and to feel comfortable in the program. And yeah, so great. This is what I was saying prior. You state your specific reason, you demonstrate the knowledge and express passion, which is the most important thing that we want to see anyways. So that's it for my presentation. I hope it was very clear. I probably